Hey everybody, Pam from Holistic Nomad Life. I'm here in Nevada doing laundry. I've been camping with several different women, part of a caravan through Hawa. And it's been a really wonderful time, but now I have to go down to Phoenix and take care of some stuff down there. So I stopped in Vegas to see the kids, and I'll be heading south pretty soon, next day or two, depending on how much stuff I get done. Today's laundry day, so there's so much to do, you know. And I really don't like laundromats because I can be really chemically sensitive. I've only used vinegar and or baking soda for years and years and years. I haven't used, the little dryer sheets or anything like that. I didn't bring my wool balls with me, but I did use the wool balls at time. They help, fluff the fabric out so that it dries faster. I don't think it softens it any, but vinegar is a fabric softener, so that's something that you can do. It's something that they use. Salt and vinegar was something that they used to set dyes, and the vinegar helped to soften the fabric as well, because the fabric would be really stiff when it was first dyed. And one of the things that came up was primitive skills, and the more we talked, I used to make my own shoes, I made my own clothes, I know how to butcher, I know how to do a lot of different things because of the folks that I hung around with, and just the things we used to. A friend of mine had llamas and sheep and rabbits, and so there was the shearing, the cleaning, the carding, the spinning, the weaving or crocheting or knitting that went along with that. And so it was like that whole process. I've also done felting, for the wools that didn't pass muster. And, just starting to think back to the roots. I worked with a medicine man at one point. His name was Charlie Thom. He was a Karuk from Mount Shasta, California, and he would come to the East Coast a couple times a year. He was an amazing, amazing medicine man. I wound up being one of his helpers. He usually had 3 to 4 helpers when he came, and I was blessed to be one of those for a few years. And he had coined the phrase, "It's time that we walk backwards into the future." And so he'd done up these t-shirts and stuff that said, "Walking backwards into the future." And to a large degree, I feel like I've been doing that. When I was in Massachusetts, I was working a high-pressure job. I was, had a mortgage. Even though I bought a less expensive house, I still had that mortgage. It was probably half of what I would have had to have been paying for rent, so it was very beneficial to have that lower payment and to actually have something come out of it at the end of it when I sold it. So I had sold my house and I had planned on moving, and I wasn't sure where I was going to go or what I was going to do, and I eventually got the pink slip, and because of the seniority I had, I could have bumped somebody else. But, I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, and I really wanted to travel. I had been traveling the last few years, and I'm sure that's part of the reason I got the pink slip, was because my life was becoming more important than my work. And right around the pink slip, a friend of mine was pregnant, and she said, "Well, since you come out to Arizona every year anyway, would you mind staying and help me, because you'll be finishing up with school?" And when I lost my job, I immediately applied to massage school. It was something I had wanted to do for a very long time. And that was about 20 years ago now, almost 20 years. And so I said, sure. And they were actually living in Colorado, up in Crestone, and so I moved out to Crestone. And that brought me to Colorado, and the intention was to travel and teach and to have a home base, and it didn't work out. So now here I am going through the pandemic. I had to sell my house because of circumstance. I lost my business because of the pandemic and all the restrictions, and people are just afraid, and I get that. But I couldn't afford to maintain an office without an income, and so I closed my office, and I've been on the road for a year and a half now. So really walking backwards into the future over the years. So I just encourage you to think about your circumstances in life and to maybe do a little reflecting and see if or how you're moving along in a direction that you've desired. When I was younger, I can't remember how old I was. I would say I was at least a teenager. I learned about vision boards, and I did a vision board, and it was all about Arizona. And for about 14 years, I traveled out to Arizona not knowing what I was looking for. So I would fly or drive out and just spend weeks at a time there trying to figure that question out. And then in Massachusetts, I met a Navajo sun dancer, and that answered my question. It was actually the Navajo reservation that had been calling me all of that time. And so I've spent a lot of time over there with a couple of different families, and I just love Arizona. And one of the things that I love is you can go north and into higher elevations for the summer to get a little bit cooler weather, or you go down in elevation, and you can do that all in one state. And there's a lot of tourism there. So I'm back to thinking, what's next for Pam? I did do my summer job. I did massage. It pays very well, the job I had, and I really enjoy it. But it was a tough year with COVID, kind of hanging over the edge of things, So interesting to see where things are going to go and how they're going to unfold. So how are things going in your life? Oh, one other thing I wanted to share. It can be windy here. I was over in Pahrump for a couple of weeks, and even here in Vegas, it can be windy a lot. Breezy, windy, all of it. Warmer temperatures from where I used to live in Colorado for sure, but still windy. And when I got back to Vegas, I felt like all this congestion, and I was like, oh, it must just be the wind, and it was supposed to rain yesterday, so I was thinking, oh, that must be what it is. But then when I was talking to my nephew and my niece, his wife, they said they were all sick, and I was like, oh, interesting. And I couldn't stop coughing or sneezing, and it started getting into my eyes too, and I said, oh, I must have a cold. And so I always reach for vitamin C and zinc. That's what I've always done when I got a cold since I was probably 18. Mega doses of vitamin C and zinc. I like the zinc lozenges to let them stay in the back of the throat. Zinc can inhibit things from growing, so but it can also throw things out of balance. So those are things you have to be careful with, and not overdo them. So I did a double dose of I used Airborne yesterday. It's a product, it has other things in it too, but it's supposed to slow it down, but its primary thing is vitamin C and zinc. So I took a couple of those and then a couple extra vitamin C and went to bed, and I slept really well. Didn't cough or sneeze all night, and this morning it was starting to come back, so I'm gonna dose again today. I feel pretty good. I can feel that I have a little bit right behind here. And so there's several things that I do in massage and Ayurveda and yoga. And so I did some of the head massage to myself that helps things drain. It gets the ducts opening. And so taking that really holistic approach to things has been something that I've done for over 40 years. And I really enjoy sharing that information with people, and I will likely be coming up with a couple of workshops online so that people can begin their own exploration what might be nice for them. To look at that more holistic, walking backwards into the future kind of concept thing, as well as being able to have these primitive skills that can be so useful for us when we're on the road and in the middle of a pandemic and, you know, food shortages and all that stuff too. So that's about it for today. I'm hoping to go out to lunch with my nephew later, but he hasn't responded, so he might be too busy today for that. But I'm going to make a big soup, lots of garlic and onions and cabbage and sweet potatoes, and really kick this cold right out of my system. So I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Namaste.